On today's show, we're talking about an issue that hits close to home here in the upstate of South Carolina. The Greenville City Council recently gave initial approval to a new ordinance that would make it illegal for anyone to lie down or, quote, reside on public property within the city limits. The proposal, often referred to as an anti camping ordinance, is largely aimed at addressing the city's growing homeless population. Supporters say it's about keeping public spaces safe and encouraging people to connect with social services. Now, critics argue it criminalizes homelessness and risks pushing vulnerable people further into the shadows. Joining me now, someone who works on the front lines of this issue every single day, Ryan Duerk, President and CEO of Miracle Hill Ministries. His organization has been serving those in crisis across the upstate for more than 80 years now, offering shelter, meals, and pathways to recovery and restoration. Ryan, it's always good to have you, buddy.
Always a pleasure, Joey.
Let's start with your reaction when you first heard about Greenville City Council's proposed ordinance. It's first reading now. It looks like it's going to become reality. What was your initial thought as someone who serves the homeless community here every day?
Well, I think it's important for your listeners to know that this is not the first time this has come up. Back in before COVID, maybe 2018, 2019, the city started to move forward with a no camping ordinance. Myself, someone from the Salvation Army, and at the time, the Greenville Homeless Alliance, we went and met with them and we talked them out of it from the perspective of, you cannot criminalize someone's inability to have somewhere to go. That being said, it came back up this year, kind of on the heels of the creation of Greenville Together, which is, a collaborative organization aimed at helping the people specifically that are unsheltered. They're on the streets. They're not willing to come into a shelter. And we believed at the time that the city was going to give us plenty of time to get Greenville Together up and running before they even considered an ordinance. Several months later, the ordinance was back on the table. And myself and the service providers kind of delivered three messages to the city. The first one is you can't criminalize homelessness. It's not illegal to have somewhere not have somewhere to go. Number two, we understand that the city has the right and responsibility to protect its streets for everybody, the unsheltered, the visitors, the businesses, and the citizens of the city. And then number three, an ordinance on its face would be unsuccessful. It would not accomplish anything that they hope to accomplish other than the criminalization of homelessness. And for that matter, it's been tried many times throughout the country with no visible or measurable benefit to the cities where they exist.
Yeah. Supporters of the ordinance, Ryan, say that it's about public safety and connecting people with the help they need, almost like that they can force them into a shelter somewhere or whatever. From your perspective, does this approach achieve that? Or to me, it seems like it may risk creating new barriers.
Yeah, I think one of the questions that people keep tossing around is, are there laws and policies in place to accomplish what the city's trying to accomplish already? From the perspective of someone's committing a crime, they're littering, disorderly conduct, public drug use. Yes, all those policies and laws already exist that would give law enforcement the authority to engage with a human being. What the city's articulating is that for the individuals that will not choose to do something different, they get calls about them every day. But they don't have a policy in place where law enforcement can engage with those individuals to encourage them to move on somewhere else. At least that's the argument that's made.
Yeah.
Myself and the service providers provided council with 10 recommendations to basically say, hey, we are not in favor of this. But if you're going to do it, you've got to include these 10 things in order to make it safe for everybody. And I'm getting to my point here. One of those things is a really healthy outreach team that is engaging with individuals, developing relationship, building trust throughout the city. I believe that an engaged outreach team alone would be able to accomplish what the city's after with the ordinance. That being someone who can engage with somebody who is, mentally ill or intoxicated or simply has nowhere else to go and doesn't know what to do. But I think the unfortunate reality that people need to understand is developing relationship and trust takes time.
Yeah.
Somebody may be on the street and an outreach team starts to engage with them. It can take months before that person is willing to trust the individuals. They're certainly not going to trust flashing blue lights.
Ryan, and with me today, Ryan Duerk, President and CEO of Miracle Hill Ministries. You can find out additional information at miraclehill.org. And maybe you're hearing about this for the first time and you want to help an organization who is actually helping the issue of homelessness here in the upstate. Go to miraclehill.org. You can volunteer, you can donate. There's lots of ways that you can help. So let's go back, Ryan. You mentioned that the city had asked you guys for feedback. You offered some suggestions. Go through that list of some of the things that you suggested.
Oh, it's kind of broken into two categories of five. The first is practical requests. Number one, that everybody involved in this situation gets trauma-informed training, meaning that they understand how to interact with individuals who are in a crisis. That's for law enforcement, outreach workers, everybody else that would be a part of this. Number two, that you would have an outreach first approach, meaning if there's a complaint that comes into the city by way of 911 or just the non-emergency line, that they would call the outreach workers first and let them engage with the individual before law enforcement is on scene. Number three, that this would be paired with social services. Not that we're just trying to move someone on, but that we're trying to point them to mental health and addiction support, case management, job training, housing navigation. And, if they have other issues with law enforcement, that they would go through homelessness court as a diversion tactic rather than just having people locked up for no reason. Number four, that there would be a guaranteed access for somewhere to go. The reality is that if this happens in the night, there is somewhere to go. Miracle Hill operates 10 emergency beds for the law enforcement. So if they have an interaction at 3 o'clock in the morning, they have somewhere they can bring someone. But during the day, depending on what time, there may not be somewhere to go. So you're asking someone to move on. Move on where? There's nowhere for that person to go. And then number five, that there would be storage and property protections. If somebody is moved on, and we can't throw away their identification and their medication and their belongings, which may be in a cart or a box or a bag. We have to protect those things because those are the only things they have, to their name in this life.
Sure.
The last five are best practices, clearly defined, limited enforcement zones that people know exactly where you do not want them to camp. Number two, that there are defined and measurable objectives of the ordinance, that this is not just a blank check that people can go do whatever they want. Number three, that there's a right to appeal that's protected in our Constitution. It should be protected for homeless individuals as well. That there's transparency and oversight, that whatever's happening at the city level, that the public could be made aware of it and understand what they're achieving. And then lastly, that the ordinance itself, that it would be baked into the ordinance, that there's an annual review process that the public and the service providers get to speak into. If the ordinance is off base, we should be able to adjust it to get it back on base.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, do you think, and with me today, Ryan Duerk with Miracle Hill Ministries, it's like you're criminalizing homelessness, you're criminalizing the poor, but there is that argument, and I get it. I get with business owners downtown and other areas that without some kind of structure, homelessness in public spaces can become unmanageable. It can become a problem for their business. How do you find that balance between compassion for people who need help and public safety?
Yeah, so Miracle Hill starts from a very specific position where we see everybody made in the image of God, having value, known by their creator. And I think the other side of that is the idea of personal freedom. And this is where this conversation gets really challenging. One of the examples that was used during city council last Monday was a gentleman who passed away across the street from the post office in the middle of summer. He was a person experiencing homelessness who expired right there on the sidewalk. Nobody knew it for several hours. Here's the backstory that most people don't know. At the time, Miracle Hill was operating a cooling shelter. Like, we recognized that the temperatures were dangerously hot. So we opened up what we typically do in cold weather for the middle of the summer, and we allowed anybody to come in to get respite from the heat, to get water, to get rest. And this individual, our staff had interacted with this individual 4 times that day and encouraged him to come into the cooling shelter. But he was intoxicated and he chose not to.
Right.
I think what we have to struggle with is, does he have the right to choose not to? Well, I think he does. He has the same rights any of the rest of us do. It's not my job to force someone to change their circumstances. We believe it's our job to give opportunity to show care and love to an individual and invite them into a different situation, a different path. But ultimately, that person has to choose. That's the public safety concern. I get it. There's an individual on the street that may not look like you. But I think I'd like for all of your listeners to remember that that is someone's child. Yeah. And that person, I can guarantee you, did not choose that outcome. They may have made poor choices along the way. They may have had terrible circumstances, but nobody wakes up in 3rd grade and says, when I grow up, I want to experience homelessness and be addicted, right? Yeah. That person is deserving of our care and attention.
Yeah. The proposal, as I understand it, Ryan, has some things, and you went through the list of items. One of those, we talked about establishing a day center, providing 24-hour restrooms. You mentioned the storage. Are these kinds of services do they truly help move people from the streets and offer stability? Is it just, to me, it would just providing a day center. That seems like a simple solution, but I don't know that that's ever worked in the past.
Yeah, I think it's a yes and answer. So many of the things listed in the ordinance, and let me say this, I want to be really fair. Councilman Duerk worked with the service providers for months, heard our requests, and included them all in the ordinance. The city came more to the table on this issue than I've seen in many issues in the past. And I want to credit them with that, to their credit. I think the more challenging part of this is, yes, many of those things are hugely beneficial to the city. They all could be accomplished without an ordinance, right? Like they all just require the city to agree that we need to do these things. The day shelter in particular, we have one that operates in Greenville. It's called Place of Hope, operated by United Ministries. And United Ministries has for many years chosen to restrict those hours because they don't want that day shelter to become a flop shop. They don't want people to just show up and lay on the ground and have no reason to change their circumstances. So they limit their hours. If we broaden the hours of outreach, I can be supportive of that if we still maintain healthy, non-toxic charity, helping people to get a hand up rather than just a handout.
Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, I've heard you say in the past that homelessness isn't just a housing issue, it's a heart issue. How can churches, nonprofits, the business community in downtown Greenville and other areas being affected come together and address the root causes instead of just the symptoms, I would say?
Yeah, I think that people tend to fall into one of two camps. Either they think it's about the person and the person just needs to go get a job, or they think it's about some broken society that we have. The reality is much more challenging and frankly encompasses both sides of it. Each individual is a unique individual. Their story is unique. Their situation is unique. The systems that they're interacting with are unique. At the same time, they've got choices that they're making along the way. And so in order to help someone escape their experience, we have to address both sides. We have to help the individual figure out what they need to change about themselves or what situation that they need to have some advice on, what system they need to interact with in order to escape their experience. The first thing that people can do in order to be a part of that solution is get educated on the subject. This conversation alone, if they're still listening, they're getting educated on the subject. And then people can contribute with their time, their talents, and their treasures. Certainly, all the nonprofit organizations use tens of thousands of volunteer hours every single year. Miracle Hill is no different. We need people from all different walks of life to come alongside us. We need whatever skill set you have. You may think your skill set's not usable for people experiencing I promise you that it is. Please come talk to me. I'll convince you of it. And certainly people can contribute with their wallets. Nonprofits need money in order to operate. People can contribute to whatever nonprofit that they seem to align with.
Yep. And Ryan, there's a great opportunity coming up to volunteer. Let's take just a minute before we say goodbye to talk about the 19th annual Thanksgiving Turkey Fry coming up Tuesday, November the 25th. How can people be involved?
Yeah, so on Tuesday, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, we are going to fry 700 turkeys, Joey. It's the most that we've ever
Wow.
done in a day, no less. So we will have a grid of fryers going all day. Those birds will be fried, cooled, torn apart, put into containers, and distributed certainly to all of Miracle Hill's facilities, but to foster families and other nonprofits across the upstate. People can contribute again with their time, their talents, and their treasures. We still have some open volunteer slots where we need people to come in the afternoon to help us shut down the event. People can contribute online financially, or they can look at the different facilities that these turkeys are serving and look at volunteer opportunities. Or I'll put one last thing out there. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving, we have a community meal at the Greenville Rescue Mission where we have all of our guests, as well as anybody on the experiencing homelessness on the street that comes in, nonprofit partners. Come down and have Thanksgiving meal with us, 6:30 on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. Sit beside your neighbor experiencing homelessness, look them in the eye, engage them in relationship, and see if you still feel the same when you walk out the door.
Yeah, good idea, Ryan. And again, you can get information about all of this at miraclehill.org. That's miraclehill.org. Ryan Duerk, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate what Miracle Hill does for our community every day.
Thank you, Joey. Certainly appreciate you.